Hey Trailblazers and Tarmac Tacklers, welcome back to the Maximum Mileage Running Podcast. This is your one-stop shop for everything ultra, road and trail running.
And don't forget, we've got all your off-road adventures covered too.
And I'm your host, Nick Hancock, Head of Coaching here at Maximum Mileage, here to deliver pro advice, humour and inspiration for those of you tackling marathons and beyond.
And I'm Faye Johnson, your co-host. I am also a certified running coach, personal trainer and the resident mountain goat. Whether it's road running or ultra marathons, we've got the tips and tricks to get you through your training.
Exactly. Whether you are squeezing miles into a busy schedule or just dipping your toes into long distance running, we've got your back. So lace up, gear up and get ready for maximum mileage. Let's get into it. Did it say you were recording? No, it didn't. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the July, is it? Yeah, it is July 2023 edition of the Hotseat. And I'm doing this intro because it's now a podcast. So just so I know which one's which. And we have had a special day. It is the day where we all get told you can't do the London Marathon. So who actually applied for the London Marathon? Yeah, several hands going up. Even Zoom put its hand up then. Did anybody actually get in?
No.
No. It's National Letdown Day. I can't believe people actually get in through the ballot. But Chris, you got in through the ballot, right?
I did last year. Although the people that I know this year that got through are both friends of mine that really, really don't want to do it. We'll see. I think they've got a long journey ahead of them, so maybe some good chats with you and Faye.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know where we are. Rach, how did you get in last year? I can't remember. Were you charity?
I had a charity spot.
Yeah, I can't be asked to raise money for charity. It's just too much money. I haven't got enough friends that will donate me that much money. So, I'm going to try and get in through Good for Age again because I
ended up organising a bingo night.
Oh wow! Yeah, I got a good last year, but I didn't take it up because I was. This year I got Good for Age, but I didn't take it up because I was in mountain ultra marathon mode, and then family things happened anyway. So anyway, I was going to kick things off today with I wanted to talk about goal setting and just a strategy that I find that keeps me motivated to keep on training the way I do. It's nice to have breaks from time to time, and particularly after your big A races. But I always find that if I don't have another goal in the future in my calendar, I can very quickly not lose interest as such. But I think for somebody as passionate about running as I am, I think if I lose a little bit of that focus and a little bit of that motivation to keep on running, then it's pretty hard for people to stay motivated. And I just tend to find that if I've got something booked in the future, that it's a really good way of keeping yourself motivated. So, yes, you may be focused on the race that's coming up ahead of you, and absolutely that is the thing that you should be doing. But if you want to keep yourself nice and motivated, either book something very quickly after the one that you've just done, or have something already booked in. And the other thing around goal setting I just wanted to sort of touch on was because I've spoken to loads of people over the years around the races, and particularly something like London. It is so important to some people that they forget about all of the stuff that they've got going on around them. They are so focused on the race and the result they're going to get in the race, and maybe the time that they're going to run, and so far out. It could be 4 months down the line. In this case, it's July, and the race London isn't until April. that's a long, long time to wait, and a long time to be thinking about what's 8, 9, 10 months away. So when I set goals, it's like, right, okay, so my goal is the Manchester Marathon. That's my personal goal in 2024, is to run, I want to run a 2:45, hopefully a 2:40 marathon at Manchester. And that's my goal. It's in the diary, it's set. I know what I want to do. And now I can forget about it. Yes, I've got it kind of in my mind. It's something I will keep talking about, and keeps me focused on the future. But it's so important to focus on what you've got here and now. Focus on the sessions that you've got in front of you. Focus on the strength training that you're doing. Focus on keeping yourself well and eating well and hydrating well and sleeping well, and not focus so much on what do I think I'm going to run in 10 months time, because it can completely derail your training. It can just totally ruin an entire training plan because somebody is so focused on getting a result that they forget about what's going on right now, staying consistent, turning those boxes green. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of throw that out there as a once you've set your goal, it's really important to have them, but don't focus on it so much that you forget about what you're doing right now. Focus on your training and all the things that are going on around you. Anything you want to add to that, Faye, or anybody else?
I would agree with you, having convinced myself a few years ago that I didn't need a goal and I just love running. And why would I need a goal? Because I just love running. And it became actually my worst my worst enemy as a result of not having a goal, because I basically overdid it. Yeah. And because there was no method to anything I was doing, it had just become an escape, and it just became it just became too much. And then as a result, I was like, I actually really don't like this at the moment, and realized how important a goal is, or even just something to give you some structure and some variety. I think that's what I learned, having been convinced I didn't need goals, but actually I had inadvertently always had goals, but just not thought of them like that.
Certainly from a coach's perspective, from this side of the fence, when I see an athlete that doesn't have some sort of goal in their plan, whether that be a race or, I just want to work on getting faster at the moment, or, building up my base strength, whatever it might be. If there is no goal, it's quite hard to plan, because, I don't want to, and no coach should ever make the goal for, and that's when, for the athlete, and that's when you guys ask me, what race should I do? What do you think I should do? I can only give some kind of advice and guidelines. It's got to be down to you what your goal is ultimately, because it's you that's got to get out there and do the work. And if you don't have that, I always talk about it, that strong why. It's just you're not going to buy into it. So yeah, make sure you've got those goals in your diaries, folks. Cool. Shall we kick off the questions? Steve, I know you're itching to ask Faye a question. My new co-host, Faye.
Yeah. No, I was really interested, Faye. And so I've been talking to a few friends recently, some of whom swear by sports massage, who are runners. And I was just wondering, from your perspective as an expert in this, sort of, what the benefits for runners are, and if there are, when you should be thinking about it. Is there particular parts of training where it can be more beneficial than others, sort of perhaps when it's more intense or when it's a bit more sort of easing off? So yeah, because I'm just finding a bit, as I get older, I think you do have a few things where you feel like you could do with a bit, so I guess some of get tight shoulders from sort of stress at work as well as doing all the exercise as well. So
I think it's a very interesting topic, because massage comes in lots of different forms, and I think that's part of, so basic massage is fantastic for relaxation, recovery, and general well-being. And I think I would certainly prescribe it to anybody that is a runner, certainly, but even for life, just to give you that time. It almost just resets your body a little bit. If you're looking at it in regards to, I think it's in a dream world, I would have one every 2 weeks.
Really?
But and in the sense of it works, you have to be careful where you put it in a let's say in a training week or over a month, because it is essentially a what's the word? It's it might hurt. It might leave you with some DOMs, basically, of a different sort.
Yeah.
And as a result,
you wouldn't have like a deep, real deep tissue sports massage the week of a race. Certainly not within the first within the couple of days of a race. But you might have a massage within a couple of days of the race, or even on the day of the race, that is quite gentle. It's all about lactate flushing and kind of that's it. And just generally just helping you to feel a bit relaxed. I mean, I just like having massages because they're nice.
Exactly. And I think, like you said, Nick, there is, there's general massage that you might have, where it's soft tissue massage. And then if you see someone who is a bit more advanced in their practice, they might do more muscle energy techniques and other things that essentially help to repair and recover muscles in a different way.
Okay.
And that's really, really valuable. And that can help with things like imbalances, muscle imbalances, or it can help with helping to encourage recovery if you've got any, micro tears, because as we know, if we train hard, we do create those muscle tears. And massage can help to increase the recovery when it comes to things like that. But certainly, like Nick said, you wouldn't have anything within a week of a race, because you want to give the body time to kind of flush through the toxins, because it does, it creates a lot of stuff in us. And for example, what can often happen is if you go and have a massage, and if you've got any hint of an underlying cold, that will bring it out. So I know I've been turned away a few times where I go and I say, "Oh, I'm not feeling great today." And the person I go to see for massage, she'll say, "Right, we're not doing that today. If you're not feeling very well, we're not going to do a massage, because I guarantee you, if I do, you'll wake up feeling awful tomorrow."
Right.
So it's really important to do it at the right time, but it can be so valuable in regards to the kind of recovery process, and just to make you feel better. Because sometimes, I don't know about you, but I get to a point in my training program where I just feel really heavy.
Yeah.
Like I just feel my legs they just feel like lead, and I'm just like, if someone could just like flush it out, that would be fantastic. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just good for your well-being and general, longevity, let's say.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. I should definitely start doing it then. Yeah.
What about things?
No, it is. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you, what about things like foam rolling, self massage, rolling sticks, sitting on a ball? I've got a book upstairs actually called The Roller Method, I think it's called. I saw Killian Jornet recommend it actually. Yeah, me and Killian, we go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've all got a place. It's how you use them and knowing the right ways to use them. And with foam rolling, it's not about pummeling yourself until your calves feel like they're going to fall off. It's quite a subtle kind of massage, and even the action of just rolling your calves up and down the foam roller is kind of flushing toxins, creating increasing blood flow, doing all the right things. And self-massage around like calves, particularly ankles, feet, can be really valuable, especially with a ball. I don't know, I've got a mini roller that I use to roll my feet, because I find if my feet are tight, my calves feel tight. It's a chain of tightness, basically. But if, you know, little things like using small foam rollers, tennis balls for your feet,
use a hockey ball.
Is, if you're that hardcore, yes.
Oh, I did start with
yeah,
like a bath sponge at some point, and then I didn't go
yeah.
straight into it. I love it.
No.
I'll sit there at my desk just hammering my feet. I just like the sensation of it. I like the crunching of the plantar tendons, and probably goes through some people.
But it is worthwhile, and does help. It certainly does help if particular muscle groups are feeling a bit tight or restricted. So, yeah.
I mean, I always get scared, cringe, like, oh God, when I see the Facebook doctors advising people do things like foam roll your IT band. Oh no,
yeah, big no, that. No.
It's like no, don't try and massage a tendon, especially something like the ITB or an Achilles. Don't do that. That's really bad.
So that's a really good example of misusing and So I'm going to try and illustrate this on the screen. But if, say, you've got a tight IT band, right, it's probably coming from your glute med, so your outside hip. So this bit here. Now,
smallest muscle in the gluteus area, but it's also the hardest working because it's it's the which is the muscle we call the runner's muscle. That's the psoas, isn't it? Yeah, that's the psoas. Ignore me.
Yeah. But essentially, you think about what connects into your pelvic area is everything. And when it comes to something like an IT band issue, it's usually coming from the hip, the glute, somewhere. It might be feeding into from the lower back, because that, you know, so it's it's not necessarily where the pain is. It could be referring from somewhere else, and that's really important. Because commonly people go, I've got knee pain. Often runners will be experiencing a tight IT band, but don't be rolling your IT band, nor be massaging too much, round your knee and thing. I've seen things and I think, no, don't think about it. And then again, that's where it's worth reaching out to someone who can kind of guide you to get a better understanding of where that tightness might be coming from, because it's not always, and 99% of the time, where you think it's coming from.
Yeah, work with a professional every time. I've just written a blog on this, and I haven't posted it yet, but I've just written a blog on it, and I talk about just talk to a professional. Like, get off Google, get off Facebook, for God's sake. The Facebook groups drive me mental. The amount of people that ask, "Oh, I've got such insert horrible injury / niggle here. What do you all do?" Like, no, just because all these people have done all these different things, you are an individual, you are totally different, and what you're experiencing might be completely different to what that person was. And if you do what that person was doing, it might actually cause you even more problems. Go and see a professional. Yeah, get off my soapbox there. The Facebook groups.
So just to add, whilst we're talking about that, is taping, because that's a pet peeve of mine. Is when I see people rock up to races taped up like a Christmas present, and they've taken no professional guidance on regards to taping. They just
magic tape, as I call it,
and it's probably doing nothing. And that's another one that's worth finding out about how to apply, because it's very easy to learn how to do it properly, but equally, find out first before you just go pop popping it on and hoping that it will just work because it's on stuck to you. Yeah.
Cool.
Brilliant. Thank you
very much.
That's okay.
Steve. Rachel, you've asked a question. Why don't you ask it right now?
Hello. Mine's just in relation to gels and your thoughts on gels pre-race, for like 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons. I know obviously in halves with fueling anyway, not necessarily in a 10K, but your thoughts of a pre-gel.
100%. I do. Even if I'm just popping down to parkrun, I'll have a gel 20 minutes before, because it takes about 20 minutes for a gel to get into the system. But I'll take one. And you know what? I might be absolutely full to the brim of glycogen, but even if it just gives me the psychological boost, why not? There's absolutely no harm in it. It's not going to contribute to any significant extra weight gain. So if you're on a diet or anything like that, I worry about people that avoid taking gels because they say they don't want to gain weight. No, okay. You don't want to be sat on the sofa on Saturday evening watching Netflix, chucking gels down your neck, because that is straight sugar, when you're sat there idle. But when we are exercising, intra-exercise glucose ingestion is totally different to when we're not doing anything. Our bodies use that in a totally, totally different way. It is fuel. So absolutely, 100% is the short answer to that. I take a gel, I say 20 minutes before every race I do. If it's an ultra, I might have a banana and a bagel, just to kind of get things going. But you're going to be fueling all the way through it as well. On a half marathon, I do take a gel mid-race. Probably don't need it, but I do anyway, because, again, if it's just giving me that little bit of a psychological boost to keep pushing for the last, I usually take it around mile 7, 8. So it gives me that 20 minutes to get into the system. And then it gives me that sort of last 30 minutes of the race to power through. So yeah, 100%. I say it all the time: fuel yourself. And me and Steve have actually both just started working with a nutritionist. I don't know how many calories he's got you on, Steve, but I've struggled the last 2 days to get all my carbs in.
Yeah, I've struggled with the protein as well, actually.
I can't believe how much carbohydrate we're eating.
Yeah.
Not in a dangerous way at all. I've said to him, one of my priorities is health first and then performance. So it's not like, we're just having loads of sugary stuff. It's a very, very healthy approach. But oh my God, the carbs! Wow! But I felt great on my session today.
Tell us how much carbohydrate.
One moment.
I'm intrigued now.
So and protein.
I might want to join this club.
Protein's pretty high as well. Mine was, and yours is probably similar as well, Steve. 2 to 2.5 grams per kilo per day.
Yeah, it's about 160 grams a day.
Yeah, like 180 to 200 grams of protein for me.
Yeah, I'm about 360 carbs on a medium demand day. I haven't had a high demand day yet because I've been tapering for the weekend. But
yeah, so I'm on a high demand day today. Moderate demand day today. 435 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's quite hard. It's quite hard to get that in without eating things like Frosties. You have to have like a bowl of something like that just to get that much in.
Yeah, I mean, I've had porridge with loads of berries, like a big squeeze of honey. I've had 3 wraps, loads of potatoes, massive bowl of tomato salad, a bagel with jam, and a gel, like just loads, absolutely loads.
Sorry, what's the aim here? What are you kind of resculpting yourself for power?
So yeah, for me, I've always been pretty good with nutrition. I mean, I wouldn't have written a recipe book for runners if I wasn't. But I don't come at it from a nutritionist perspective. I come at it from I understand it, and these recipes have helped fuel my running. Actually, one of the recipes one of the meals I had today was one of those recipes. So it's serving a purpose. But a bit like anything, really, for me, really, I want to really dial in on my performance. And, like all of you guys come to me for coaching, I've gone to somebody for coaching on that. Yes, I know plenty about it, but I still like that accountability. That was a big thing, was the accountability piece. Because I can just be a bit shit particularly on the weekends. Just totally let everything go and eat. Probably, in fact, I would almost guarantee I eat too much fat on the weekends. And yeah, I comfort eat probably a bit too much. I clear the kids' plates daily. I am daddy dustbin number one. And I, for the goals that I've got, I think I carry probably a little bit too much body fat, not weight. And it's really important that I say that, because body weight, you see these skinny runners, these Eliud Kipchoge's of the world, they're kind of built like that. I'll never be built like that. I'm 30 kilos, in fact 35 kilos heavier than Eliud Kipchoge. And there is precious muscle mass that I don't want to lose. It's a significant indicator of mortality, muscle mass. So we need to keep ourselves strong, keep ourselves healthy. But I can feel my belly when when I'm running, it does bounce up and down a little bit. And for somebody who runs a 17-minute 5K, well, maybe if I wasn't carrying 5 kilos that I didn't need, then and I'm not looking to get crazy lean, none of that. That isn't my aim at all. In fact, like our nutrition coach said, for some people 10% body fat might be perfect, but for others it might be 15, 16, and I actually think that will probably be where I would sit, particularly at my age as well. 41 next month. 10% body fat for me, probably no, not now. Maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but not now. So yeah, we'll see. It is a bit of an experiment as well. It might not glean any performance improvements, and that's the beauty of nutrition. It's all just so different and challenging. Chris, you're going through your own nutrition path at the moment, aren't you? But for a very different reason. Yours is less about performance incremental gains and more about it not totally derailing your entire race, because you've struggled with issues over the years, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. And it was only really kind of prepping for this ultra that I've now pulled out of that I realized I've got a particular issue with running when it is into the early hours of the morning, and my stomach just cannot deal with it. And so that's kind of taken an underlying kind of IBS issue that I've had for decades, and kind of really I'm putting a focus on that now to try and get to the bottom of that, to see how I can control it better, because I'm kind of in the stage where I'm with, but I'm realizing now there's definite things that I can't do. In fact, when I got the note that I didn't get into London, one of my friends in Luxembourg said, "Come do the Luxembourg one with me. Starts at 7 p.m." It's like, what I'm feeling I'm able to do. So yeah, I really want to get to the bottom of that for sure. And yeah, I've had a whole host of blood tests, and we've not said the word poo yet. So
yeah,
but kind of all those kind of tests, just to the amount of stuff I've had ruled out is great, but getting to the bottom of exactly what the issues are will really help me. And once I'm on something stable with that, then certainly I'll look at kind of the health side of nutrition. But getting my stomach sorted is job number one, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, to circle right back to Rachel's original question, gel before a race, for me personally, hell yeah. But like with anything with nutrition, I think it's quite good that we went down that little rabbit hole there, because I think it just illustrates that we are all so different. And I could say, yes, definitely get a gel in you before you race. But, if it doesn't work for you, then it might not be the way to go. But practice, test it out, see what works for you. A gel might not be great for you straight before a race, but maybe a banana is. Maybe, maybe a spoonful of honey, maybe a bit of chocolate. It is that experimentation piece. Okay. There was another question. Let me just find it. That was it. James. Again, on the nutrition realms of things. So James, who is training for, and he got his number through in the post yesterday, for a 145-mile canal race. He's mental. But he's asked, drink to volume or time, or drink to thirst? He was using a precision hydration tab on Sunday, and on the tube it says drink to thirst, and it got me thinking. Well, I would agree with him. I have gone into the realms of trying to achieve a certain amount of hydration per hour, or whatever your strategy is based on how much you sweat, and that's not bad advice. It's maybe just slightly older advice that actually, as companies like Precision Hydration, who do work with a lot of great people who are doing a lot of great studies on this. There's been studies coming out pretty recently, actually, that the whole sodium thing and cramping is total rubbish. Total rubbish. They've done control groups where they've given one group sodium, hydration tablets, whatever it might be, and other groups where they've had nothing, and there's been absolutely no difference in when people got cramps. It was all, in fact, they actually believe it's more around muscular endurance. How strong are you, and how much can your muscles take before they start seizing up and start cramping, rather than the sodium bit. Now, I think the jury is still a little bit out on it. But to sort of answer James's question, I'm in the camp now of drink to thirst. I do think you really need to keep an eye on it. So anybody who is planning on doing an ultra, or has ultras booked, or even marathons, I think you've got to just drink to thirst, but really keep a check on yourself. Don't let it get too far, particularly when the weather's hot, because it's so hard to come back from dehydration. And actually, I had Jerry, who is based in Pittsburgh, over the weekend. He DNF'd his 50k at 40k. Unfortunately, he just couldn't go out for the last loop. Unfortunately, he did find himself in probably the worst running conditions you could ever imagine. The Canadian wildfires that have been in the news recently, and it was like 97 Fahrenheit and 96% humidity, apparently. So, it just couldn't be any worse conditions to run in. So, no bad play on his part, but he basically said by 20k he just couldn't keep up with the hydration demand. So that's kind of one extreme, but to ensure that I do keep hydrated, my personal strategy is every time I watch beeps for a mile, I'll make sure I take a sip. Because then I know I've had something, so I'm at least staying on top of it. And then another strategy I have is on ultras, is that particularly if the weather's warm, I have every bit of fluid I've got on me, so usually a litre between each aid station, so I'm really on top of it. And if I find like I'm peeing a little bit too much and it's not too far to the next aid station, then I might skip it, particularly if it's a shorter race. But one of those strategies I employ is just make sure you have every drop of what you've got on you by the time you get to the next aid station, and then refill, and then do the same again. So yeah, I'm in the camp of drink to thirst. I think if you go in with a strategy of I am definitely going to have 1 litre every hour, and then you can't achieve that, or it's too much, or it's too little. It might be that for some people 1 litre is too little and they will get dehydrated. So I think it's dangerous territory going in with a specific number. I think you've just got to really stay on top of that hydration piece. Any thoughts on that, Chris? I know you're a stickler for your water. You drink 1 litre just on a park run, don't you?
Yeah, just on a Zinkel.
Yeah.
So I guess I've got a follow-on question around, I noticed I was, with this stomach stuff that I was testing around the ultra, I found that tailwind seems to work okay for me as well as gels, and I don't know whether I want to go a whole ultra on gels, or even if I'll be able to cope with kind of doing that. But I guess tailwind has got its own problem with kind of calories in versus hydration as well, and so there's kind of a bit of a between just running with tailwind and then not being able to kind of control fueling versus hydration, or kind of carrying a both and carrying more weight around to be able to kind of mix the two. I don't know if you've got any recommendations or thoughts there.
Yeah, so tailwind kind of pissed me off a little bit, because on their packaging, if I'm not mistaken, it says something like all you need all day.
Right.
That just fucking pisses me off. Excuse my French. Why am I saying excuse my French? It does. It fucking pisses me off, because that is if somebody is running all day in an ultramarathon, they need nutrition, real food. They need it. You can't go all day on just tailwind. And if you do, then there has been some very, very, very serious training of the gut that has allowed you to be able to do that. Not just tailwind, but I think I'm in the camp of it's very hard to control your hydration if you have a carbohydrate drink like tailwind, particularly on a hot day, because if you are trying to get loads of water in to get your hydration up, and you continue to ingest lots and lots of carbohydrates, your gut is just going to go, well, I can't process all that. So unfortunately, I'm either going to puke it out or shit it out. And here we go. We're talking about pooping every time. And he won't mind me mentioning it, but James, who asked the previous question, I've been coaching him for just over 2 years now. The first race we did together as coach and coachee, I ran the last bit with him, was Race to the Stones, which is this weekend. And he had no end of problems because he was using 100% tailwind. I think it was tailwind in his bottles. And he was so dehydrated, but he just couldn't rehydrate and deal with the amount of carbs that were going into his gut. And he's one with a pretty sensitive gut. So I go with the strategy of hydration in the bottle, carbs in the pocket, because then you are in control. If you need to get loads of extra fluid in, great, you can without having to ingest more and more carbohydrate. If you need to get more carbohydrate in, you can just take it out of your pocket. Because that's the other thing. If you feel like you're starting to bonk because you're running out of fuel, if you're only on something like tailwind, you've got to drink like 1 litre just to get 60 grams of carbohydrates in you, which is insane. So you've got to have that. You've got to have those control mechanisms. And I think if you've got 100%, something like tailwind in your, I sound like I'm bashing tailwind here, but this goes for all other brands. I work with Torque. That includes Torque. I think unless you're being crude and you've got other means to be able to get hydration in another way, I think going with 100% carbohydrate drink is it's a dangerous strategy, really. particularly in warm weather. Not so much in cold weather. I think you can get away with it, but in warm weather, that's tough on the gut for anybody. Great question. I have a question for Faye.
Okay.
Muscle tightness.
Mm-hmm.
My calves are tight. No, this is not coming from me. This is a question I get loads.
Oh, okay.
Lots of different people.
Okay, yeah.
And I'll get people say, well, my calves are really tight. I'm like, okay, so one of them or both of them? Both of them, really tight. And they get worried about, that's, am I injured? And my sort of experience is that if it's in both sides, probably not. If it's in one side, maybe. But that tight feeling is usually, in my experience, not tightness. And actually, you might know him, actually. Mike James, the endurance physio, he's Ebervale based, I think.
I know his name, but I don't know. Yeah, I've heard.
I love something he said was that tightness is not tightness, that's fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
It's when it turns into the realms of it's painful that you then need to start worrying. So my question is there such thing as a tight muscle?
I think, how would I describe it? If a muscle feels, let's use the word tight because it's universally understood, tight, it's probably because you've used it. It happens, and that the muscle will shorten after you've exercised it. And that's often why we, suggest or encourage some kind of, post exercise stretching of some sort. I'm saying this like I'm golden and I do it all the time. I don't. But in the sense of, you exercise a muscle, you put it under stress, and then afterwards it shortens as, and it repairs itself, and it's part of the recovery process. And it's quite normal. As you said, there's a few different things that can come about. If, for example, you are finding that the pain is consistent and it's quite specific and it doesn't move, that could be suggesting that you have a small muscle tear of some sort or something that could be problematic. Generally, muscle tears will manifest themselves in feeling a little bit gristly and a bit ridgy, maybe, if you poked it, and sore. And generally it will get worse if you were to continue exercising on it. The other thing that people get are what called trigger points, and you may have heard of these, and they come about again through normal daily function, but they also particularly come about through exercise. And this is slightly different because that manifests itself again, feels like a pea or a lump or a ridge. And what tends to happen with that is if you apply some pressure to that point, it will radiate, and it will kind of radiate out from that particular place. So it might, if it's in my calf, for example, it might radiate up towards my hamstring or down to my...
Is that the technical word for hurt like fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, that one. Yeah. And that's different, but to touch, they can feel the same. And this is a conversation I was having last week with someone, because at first you can think, oh, I instantly think on the positive side and think, oh, I've just got another trigger point. I'll just get the foam roller out or the tennis ball or something and try and work on it myself and get rid of it. And generally I can manage it. It's like I said, if it becomes more persistent and it's quite localized, you might be thinking, oh, maybe I've done something, or there's some potential damage, but it might not be. It might just be overworked. But I've become too accustomed to it, but I generally have something that's tight 100% of the time. I think I was saying this to you, Nick, not that long ago, where I don't know a day that doesn't pass where I don't feel like something hurts or feels tight in some capacity. But yeah, I think it's often, and maybe you get used to it, but it's often nothing to worry about. It might just be out of your comfort zone of what you've known before.
That's the thing. I think what you just said there is exactly, I think, what I think sometimes people just need to hear is just, don't worry about these little things that, come about from time to time. And
might I add, our bodies are very resilient. And I'm not suggesting ever to run through an injury, but don't always assume that it is an injury or it's something that's going to curtail your training, because, some muscles do get tight. We might have a tight back after, and this is a common thing. We do our exercise and then we go to work and we sit down for however many hours, and then we get up at the end of the day, and that's part of the problem. And I'm not saying, we all have jobs to do and we can't change that, but simple things like throughout the day making sure you're standing up for periods of time, walking around, making sure you're just not sat down and causing your body to kind of tighten up and muscles to shorten. One of my best tricks, and this is something I do a few times a day, is I just lie on the floor, let everything realign itself and just relax.
We get one of those inversion tables. Just hang upside down for a while.
There's always that option. But I swear, it's one of the simplest things you can do, but it just realigns everything. If feel like you've been sat down and a bit kind of like hunched up.
Yeah.
Nice and simple, but does make a difference.
Yeah. Good stuff. Cool. If nobody has any other questions, I did forget my opening joke today. So I'm going to close with a joke. And it's another pirate one. What did the first mate see when he walked into the toilet on the ship in the morning? The captain's log. And with that, thank you, everybody. And we will see you next month. And that's another lap done on the Maximum Mileage Running podcast. Thank you for joining me and my athletes and my guests on this wild ride through the world of ultra, road and trail running. And remember, whether it's a mountain trail or the local road, every mile you conquer makes you stronger. Keep pushing, keep laughing, and of course, keep swearing when that hill just seems a little too steep. If you enjoyed today's journey, don't forget to subscribe and leave me a nice review. Your feedback does help me go that extra mile. Until next time, this is your host, Nick Hancock, reminding you to make every mile count. Run long, run strong, and run with maximum mileage. Catch you on the next one.